My son and I are embarking on a lavish new life abroad thanks to his $3 million. After the divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet, my mother-in-law sneered. Her demand for our address, coupled with the bizarre suggestion of licking her shoes, left me bewildered. What? I exclaimed. What are you talking about? I demanded, utterly perplexed. I had no clue what my mother-in-law was talking about. I admitted to myself. There had been no indication that they were planning to go abroad, or that they had been saving up money. That's because I said my son got $3 million. We're gonna live the high life overseas. Just the two of us, she boasted. The shock hit me like a freight train. Why would my husband leave the country? And where did $3 million come into play? Why do you want to know so badly? She taunted. Well, if you really want to know, kneel down and beg, licking my shoes, and maybe I'll tell. She sneered, her tone cutting. What's with that attitude? I retorted, my frustration mounting. Where is my husband? I demanded, seeking answers. Oh, it's very comfortable here. We're enjoying the high life with my son's $3 million, she declared with disdain. So you're no longer needed, she dismissed me casually. I was stunned by my mother-in-law's callous words. What did it mean that my husband suddenly had $3 million and was living a luxurious life abroad? Moreover, her treatment of me as an outsider fueled my anger and anxiety, yet I knew I needed to assess the situation calmly. How did my husband come into such a substantial sum of money? And could that $3 million possibly be related to? Reflecting on my life, I recalled how I met my husband at work, drawn to his positivity and warmth, leading to our marriage. His parents had welcomed me warmly, and we later had a daughter who is now 14. Growing up in poverty with toxic parents, I was determined to cherish and love my daughter deeply despite facing hardships. However, when my husband was assigned to a project in Texas, he moved away, leaving me to manage work, household chores, and our daughter alone. Reluctantly, I agreed to live with my mother-in-law for support. Mommy, when will Daddy come back? My daughter often asked. It seems he'll be in Texas for a while. But don't worry, Grandma's coming over, I reassured her. Little did I know that decision would become the greatest regret of my life. You're working late again today, huh? Women who neglect their families, my mother-in-law's biting remarks greeted me daily. I have a job too, and I take care of our daughter. I defended myself, but she remained unsatisfied. When I was young, the family was everything. The thought of working outside never crossed my mind, she'd reminisce. On the day my daughter achieved good grades at school, she claimed credit. It's all thanks to me. What's the point of you? Maybe we don't need you around. Despite her minimal help with my daughter's homework, I had been the one primarily responsible for her education. Whenever I made a minor mistake in the kitchen, she would criticize me sharply. How did you and my son even survive before with such poor cooking skills? I'm doing my best, and everyone has their own way of doing things, I would retort, my patience wearing thin. She doesn't do her chores, she complained to my husband. Mom, she's working too. Please try to understand, my husband would interject. However, as we continued to live together, the relationship between my mother-in-law and me became increasingly strained. With my husband miles away, I felt more isolated. One day, feeling overwhelmed, I decided to call my husband to discuss the situation. Hello. You okay right now? Yeah, I'm good. What's up? It's kind of late. Well, your mom gave me a piece of her mind about house chores, and it's really getting to me. I'm sorry. Mom's always been a bit sharp-tongued, but maybe she has a point. Still, don't let it get to you too much. Just keep doing things at your own pace. Feeling somewhat reassured by my husband's words, I dedicated myself once again to our daily routine. However, as the days passed, the pressure from my mother-in-law continued to build, and I became more worn out every day. I eagerly anticipated my husband's return. Living with my mother-in-law without my husband around proved challenging. Initially, I coped by holding on to the remnants of his presence. But as days turned into weeks, her behavior became even more unbearable, and I felt crushed under the weight. She nitpicked everything I did from dawn till dusk and criticized me constantly. When I made my husband's favorite rice dish, she coldly remarked, "This tastes terrible. Who'd eat this?" Whenever I took a short break, she would chastise me with, "How can a woman who can't even handle household chores take a break?" I never had much confidence in housework. With my husband, he would just laugh off my little mistakes. In front of my mother-in-law, I realized I had no room for error. I think the way she treats me stems from her excessive love for her son. She seems unable to accept that he got married and moved away from her. This experience solidified my resolve never to become an overbearing parent like her. One day, after treating myself to a small shopping spree at a local mall, my mother-in-law got wind of it. When I got home, she was waiting for me at the entrance fuming. "How could you think of going out for fun when your husband isn't home? What do you think is happening with the household chores?" I thought I needed a little break. A break? In this situation, all this trouble is happening because of your ineptitude. After that, I awaited a call from my husband, hoping that hearing his voice might lighten my mood. However, the content of his call was far from what I expected. "I've got some bad news. My work in Texas isn't going well. I got into gambling, and now I'm in a tight spot financially. I've also accumulated quite a debt." "What? Are you kidding me? Gambling? In debt? This is way out of line. What's going to happen to our future and our daughters?" "I'm sorry, really sorry. I feel stuck right now, but trust me, I'll find a way." "How? How do you plan to handle this? How much do you owe?" "I'm working on a solution." I always thought of my husband as a sincere person who would never gamble. He was always punctual for our dates, and after we moved in together, he always came straight home from work. He would always thank me whenever I cooked or did laundry. It's because he was so sincere and honest that I married him. But with him away and the constant criticism from my mother-in-law, my life felt unbearable. "I can't believe someone as useless as you married my son." My heart was sinking into despair. Since my husband started working away from home, I've been constantly criticized and blamed by my mother-in-law. And my husband's recent confession deepened the despair I felt inside. His debts, the gambling issues, followed by an onslaught of more criticism from my mother-in-law. I couldn't handle it anymore, and one night I left the house and found myself crying on a park bench. Then one day, my mother-in-law discovered a secret from my past. At dinner, she used it as ammunition against me. "So, I heard you used to work in a nightclub, huh? Shame on you for raising my grandchild after working in such a place. How did you find out about that?" "I was telling an acquaintance about how useless my son's wife is and showed them a picture of you. They recognized you. Apparently, you weren't even good at that nightclub job. In my past, frustrated with a mother who never worked and always partied, I left my family home. Struggling for money, I found work at a nightclub. It was a time from before I married my husband, a secret I believed even he didn't know." I was at a loss for words. I had never imagined my mother-in-law would discover this about my past, and she continued to use the secret to berate me further. "I can't believe someone like you is the mother of my grandchild. I'll tell my son and have you kicked out." The depth of my despair grew even deeper. My married life with my husband, all the efforts I've made, and the future I had envisioned felt as if everything was taken away with her words. The communication from my husband dwindled. I feared he had started to doubt and suspect me. One night alone in my room, I reflected on my life, meeting my husband, our marriage and our current circumstances, and the constant blame and accusations from my mother-in-law. I felt I couldn't go on like this. "I can't take it anymore." Whispering these words, I stepped out into the silent nighttime streets. The hushed streets echoed the hopelessness enveloping me. My mother-in-law's harsh words reverberated in my mind, my past, my secrets, and my present, all targeted by her criticism and blame. On a park bench, under a starless sky, I sat contemplating the darkness within my heart. Suddenly, a familiar voice approached. "Mom, why are you here?" My daughter sat beside me, holding my hand. "Mom, don't let Grandma get to you. You work hard at an AITA company, and you've been through so much. You're strong." "Thank you, but maybe Grandma has a point." "Mom, Grandma's just stuck in the past. In today's world, you should be proud of any job you've done. I'm proud you worked at a nightclub, really." "Yes, because it shows you've always tried your best for us, no matter the circumstances. Don't let Grandma's words control you." My daughter's words warmed my heart, and tears streamed down my face. "Mom, you're working hard in IT now, right? That's amazing. I'll always be on your side, no matter what Grandma says." Filled with gratitude for my daughter's support, I found hope that we could face challenges together. In my husband's study, I took a deep breath before diving into a mountain of paperwork. I meticulously examined each document, seeking to unveil his secrets: bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Slowly, my husband's financial situation became clearer. Why did this happen? I discovered numerous receipts from gambling activities: horse racing, slot machines, casinos. The thought of how much money he had squandered on these pursuits was heart-wrenching. Next, I turned on my husband's PC. The password was his birthday reversed. His inbox overflowed with collection emails and messages from friends demanding repayment of loans. Furthermore, promotional emails from gambling-related sites flooded his mailbox. I calculated how much my husband had spent on gambling. The result was an astounding $3 million, far beyond my estimation. Seeing that amount, panic set in momentarily, but there was no time to lose. I began planning to secure funds to maintain our livelihood. Drawing on my savings, the expected proceeds from selling our high-end electronics and luxury goods at home, and the savings from my salary, I worked on a financial strategy. Continuing my investigation, I reached out to financial institutions to understand the extent of my husband's debts. Obtaining credit information in his name, I devised a plan a few days later. Preparations for a life independent of my husband and mother-in-law were underway. I also strategized to repay my husband's debts. Leveraging my experience in the IT industry, I joined freelance projects. Creating a portfolio and registering on a website introducing freelance jobs occupied my days. Soon after, I received my first request from a client. "This will help a bit with our living expenses." In the midst of daily work, I scrutinized our household finances. Canceling unnecessary subscription services, cutting down on wasteful spending, and researching cost-effective recipes became my routine. I successfully reduced our daily food expenses and, based on insights from local friends, participated in a community yard sale. Selling some branded items and unnecessary electronics, I earned a decent amount, contributing to our financial stability. A few weeks later, my freelancing endeavors were thriving, and a sense of financial stability began to settle in my bank account, sufficient for our living expenses. Upon returning home, I discovered that all of my mother-in-law's belongings had vanished. Simultaneously, my phone rang, and it was her on the line. "Oh, are you already home? I noticed our stuff is gone. What are you trying to say?" "My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $3 million. After the divorce, you won't be able to make ends meet. If you want our address, get on your knees and lick my shoes." Suppressing a chuckle, I responded, "Actually, that $3 million is a debt." "Stop joking. There's no way my son has that kind of debt. You might not believe it, but it's true. In his study, there are transaction records from banks and financial institutions, credit card bills, contracts, and more. Plus, on his PC, there are collection emails from financial institutions, messages from friends demanding repayment, and promotional emails from gambling sites. If you don't believe me, why don't you check? I just sent you photos of the evidence. Maybe you should take a look." "You're lying. It's the result of him getting deeply into gambling, horse racing, slot machines, casinos. All in all, It amounts to a whopping $3 million. I just sent you photos of the evidence. Maybe you should take a look. I had no idea. He probably didn't want you to know, but it doesn't change the facts. In silence, my mother-in-law took a deep breath. I truly didn't know. I don't know what to say. Without another word, I hung up, resolving to begin anew. Shocked by the actions of my husband and mother-in-law, I focused on forging a future for my daughter and me. Later on, my husband called. "I'm so sorry, truly I am." His subdued voice did little to quell my anger. "Why did it come to this? Our family is falling apart because of you. I never thought it would come to this. But when I decided to go overseas with Mom, I couldn't see a future with you and our daughter." Flabbergasted by his words, I asked, "You couldn't see? It's because of your carelessness and lack of planning that our family is in this mess." "I know that, but it's too late now. I made a promise to Mom." "Promise? What promise?" "One to sacrifice our daughter's future and grab a paradise just for yourselves." His silence was met with his sobbing on the other end. Calmly, I hung up the phone. The reason my mother-in-law confused assets with debts was due to a bill of $3 million that suddenly arrived at our home. She mistook the $3 million bill for a lottery-winning notice. She began planning her dream relocation overseas and approached my husband about it, unaware of his mother's misunderstanding and thinking starting a new life overseas would allow him to escape the debt problem. He accepted her proposal, mistaking a bill for a lottery notice. After that, I kept my anger towards my husband and began looking for a lawyer. I was set on preparing for a divorce, claiming compensation for emotional distress and child support. Now, a new life was about to start. A life for me and my daughter independent from my husband and mother-in-law. I consulted with a lawyer about the divorce, emotional distress compensation, and child support claims. During this period, my daughter and I spent a lot of quality time together, and she became my strongest supporter. She fully understood my decision and chose to stay with me. Hearing her words made all the hardships, disputes with my husband and mother-in-law worth it, and I couldn't help but shed tears. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law and husband were struggling with their life overseas. Despite starting a new life there, they apparently faced continuous problems due to a lack of preparation and financial issues. Furthermore, after being pickpocketed and losing their funds, they faced even more difficulties due to the language barrier. In the end, they were deported for overstaying their visas. Later, I negotiated with my husband through the lawyer. The divorce is finalized. We've agreed that he'll pay the emotional distress compensation and child support in one lump sum. Thank you. Now I can finally start a new life. But all at once, wouldn't it be better in installments? He has been took on even more debt, seemingly borrowing money from some shady loan shark. I don't know what happened to him after that, and honestly, I don't care. After being evicted from her rental property and getting pickpocketed, losing all her savings, my mother-in-law ended up homeless upon her return to the U.S. My daughter and I started our new life. Sure, it wasn't always easy, but freed from my husband and mother-in-law, we could look to the future positively. I want to live happily, collaborating with my daughter who saved me from the depths of despair. Hey everyone, I'm Claire, and I want to share a chapter of my life that revolves around challenging relationships with my in-laws and husband. Currently navigating the complexities of a divorce, I thought it might resonate with those of you who've experienced unwarranted criticism from your in-laws. Let me take you back to how it all began. I met Zane, my now estranged husband, on a dating site when I was a 19-year-old college student. Zane, at 25, had a stable job. Despite the age gap, love blossomed between us. I've never been one to judge based on age or appearance, so Zane's age was never a concern for me. However, Zane struggled with our age difference. He often questioned, "Why are you with me, Claire? I don't understand. I'm so much older than you. You could find someone your own age who's better suited for you." Yes, I could, but I don't want to. I fell in love with you, and age doesn't matter to me. Zane, burdened by insecurities, persisted. There must be other reasons, Claire. It's not natural for someone like you to love someone like me. I wish you'd tell me the truth. I am telling you the truth. I don't want to date boys my age. I love you, and that's all that matters to me. Despite my assurances, Zane struggled to believe me, revealing deep-seated self-esteem issues that may have contributed to his single status. Determined to prove the authenticity of my feelings, I embarked on a journey to demonstrate the depth of my love for him. Throughout our entire relationship, I refrained from letting Zane spend money on me. While I wasn't a broke college student, I wasn't rolling in wealth either. Despite my financial constraints, I made sure to buy him gifts and cover my own expenses each time. I held a modest job, so I wasn't destitute. Zane seemed to appreciate these gestures. Regrettably, Zane's low self-esteem persisted, and he continued to doubt the authenticity of my love. Despite my best efforts to be supportive and understanding, his mistrust shattered my heart. It wasn't until the first 2 years had passed that I discovered the root of Zane's self-esteem issues. Meeting his parents, Michael and Molly, shed light on his struggles. Michael, Zane's father, had experienced a stroke of luck, winning the lottery and dramatically improving their lives. They purchased an extravagant house and secured their future with the remaining funds. However, Michael and Molly carried an air of superiority. During our initial encounter, Michael boasted, "Not everyone can make it big like me. I was a hard-working man, and look where it got me. Do you know how uncommon it is to win a huge lottery? The chances are very low, but I did it on the first try." They took pride in their decision-making skills, insinuating that Zane, despite completing college, would never match their financial success. Molly hinted that Zane's previous partners were gold diggers, leaving as soon as their financial situation improved. The couple openly questioned Zane's ability to make sound choices. This attitude infuriated me. Zane's parents indirectly accused every girl he dated of being interested only in his money. Over time, Zane internalized these beliefs, contributing to his insecurities. The insinuation that I, too, was a gold digger became a humiliating part of the narrative. Fed up with the unjust assumptions, I decided to defend both Zane and myself. I declared, "I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with you. Zane has worked hard to establish himself in his career, and with time, he will achieve even greater success." Michael rebutted, "Well, that doesn't change the fact that women only want him for money. The money we have is ours, but Zane does co-own the house. Ultimately, it will be his when we pass. Let me tell you, every time they see our $200,000 house, I swear these girls see dollar signs in their eyes." I can't vouch for Zane's past relationships, but I'm certainly not in this for the money. I love your son, and that's the reason we're together. I have no interest in your house. Don't worry, Claire. Sometimes it's challenging to accept that people can be successful and live in nice houses. You live in a small rented apartment with roommates. After spending time around our house, you might start desiring it too. It's just a matter of time. Michael and Molly's comments were pushing my anger to the brink. I was on the verge of exploding. Zane heard it all but chose not to respond or defend himself, steering the conversation in a different direction. His nonchalant attitude surprised me. On our way home, I decided to address it with him. "Zane, your parents are being unkind. They're insulting both of us. Why didn't you speak up?" "What did you expect me to say, Claire? I can't be certain they're entirely wrong. Women in the past have used me to try and benefit from my parents' wealth. They made grand plans involving the house and how it would be ours once my parents passed away. Even if they were gold diggers, that doesn't mean I am one too. You stayed silent when your family insulted me as well. You know my family is well off now. There's a chance they're right about everything. I'm not saying you had bad intentions, but I can understand why it might seem questionable. You don't have parents, so you rely on my inheritance alone. What you're suggesting is absurd, Zane. I've never pressured you to spend money on me. And just because I don't have an inheritance doesn't give you the right to label me a gold digger." Zane remained unwilling to acknowledge my concerns, insisting that he loved me and the reasons behind it didn't matter, he shrugged off the need for further discussion. While some might have found solace in such assurances, I couldn't accept the thought of him harboring negative beliefs about me. I attempted numerous conversations, hoping to make him understand my perspective. I even suggested therapy, recognizing its potential benefits for him. However, he adamantly claimed there was nothing wrong, causing me to eventually abandon the effort. As time passed, I distanced myself from his family. We became engaged shortly after my college graduation, and although my job paid decently, I started saving to contribute to our wedding expenses. We split the costs evenly and got married when I was 22. However, the subsequent 3 years turned into a tumultuous period of my life. Zane frequently visited his parents, returning home in a sour mood each time. I knew Michael and Molly were still taunting him and branding me as a gold digger. Despite my pleas for Zane to limit contact with them, he continued to engage with his parents. Their words poisoned his perception of our relationship, convincing him that no one could genuinely love him. Even after years of love and care, Zane remained suspicious of me. The burden of constantly proving myself became increasingly draining. However, the breaking point arrived on Zane's birthday. In line with his preference for small celebrations, we had a quiet cake party at home. I presented him with the expensive watch he had desired. Zane was elated with the gift, but my joy waned when he suggested visiting his parents to showcase it. Despite my reluctance, I accompanied him at his insistence. Upon reaching their house, Zane eagerly displayed the watch to Molly and Michael. "Mom, Dad, look at this beautiful watch Claire gave me. I've been wanting it for a while now. Isn't it gorgeous?" "Oh, did she know, Zane? It seems she does love you after all. We were quite concerned for a while there." "Don't get carried away, Michael. She's a gold digger. She married our son because we own a $200,000 house. Let's not forget the facts." "Yeah, you're right. I almost forgot that the house is the only reason Claire married Zane." "Excuse me? Why do you think I married your son for your house?" "Well, you were just living in an apartment after working for 4 years. Besides, Zane is so much older than you. Why would you marry him unless you want something from him? I'm sure our house was always an attraction, if not his money." "I married your son because I love him. All your theories about my gold-digging intentions are wrong. Zane knows the truth, and he will tell you that, won't you, Zane?" To my complete surprise, Zane remained silent. I was already feeling uncomfortable with my in-laws' belief that I was a gold digger, but Zane's reaction, or lack thereof, shocked me. He kept his head down and avoided eye contact with me. Feeling perplexed, I decided to push him a bit. I couldn't fathom why he wasn't standing up for me. "Why are you not saying anything? Your parents always thought I was a gold digger. How will they know the real me if you don't tell them? Why are you quiet? Tell them they're wrong." I don't know what you want me to say, Claire. I don't know if my parents are off the mark. There might be a possibility that you're after this house." "Are you serious right now, Zane? You believe I married you for your assets?" "He's not wrong to think like that. It's suspicious that you've never considered buying a house. You haven't even discussed it with him. For someone renting a place, owning a house should have been a priority." "Yeah, it should be a priority, but you've chosen not to work toward owning a house. Our place is expensive, and you can't afford something like this even if you tried. So you decided to marry Zane and settle here. That makes more sense to me. I mean, why would you marry me, Claire? You might have feelings for me, but I think there's more to it than just love." I found myself speechless after this exchange. All the love I had for Zane seemed to have been reduced to nothing. At the end of the day, my in-laws and even my husband viewed me as a gold digger. While my in-laws' reaction bothered me, it was Zane's response that devastated me. In that moment, I made a decision. I wanted a divorce. I didn't immediately disclose my decision to them. I waited for the right time. So when Zane and I returned to our place, I contacted a lawyer and initiated the divorce process. The lawyer assured me that the papers would be ready within a week. In the meantime, I opted to stay in a separate room. Zane assumed I was just letting off steam and had no idea of what was coming. When the divorce papers finally arrived at my parents' house, I packed my bags and left. When Zane called me in a panic, I instructed him to come to an address and bring my in-laws along. Despite his confusion, he agreed. Upon their arrival, I was waiting on the porch. They looked taken aback by the house. I said, "You must be wondering why I brought you here. It's a beautiful house, isn't it? No one can compare their house to this. It costs around $2 million in today's market. Pretty expensive, but worth the money. There's also furniture with an added value of millions. What is this place, Claire? I don't know why you have access to such a house. Why don't you guys come in so that we can talk? I can't tell you everything on my porch." "What do you mean by your porch?" I brushed off their astonishment and walked inside. They trailed behind, even more impressed by the opulence within. The owners of the house had spared no expense. As we settled down, I took a deep breath and addressed them. "I've reached a decision, and that's why you're here. I filed for divorce. Here are the papers. We can proceed with an uncontested divorce if you agree." "What? I don't understand. Why are you filing for divorce?" Zane's voice held a mixture of confusion and concern. "Because you and your parents believe I'm a gold digger. You think I'm after your house, right? Despite my assurances, you refuse to listen. So I'll spare you from my gold-digging self and divorce Zane. It seems that's what everyone wants. You're considering divorce just because my parents told the truth. That's ridiculous. We didn't say anything untrue. Why the dramatics?" Zane's tone betrayed his disbelief. "I think this is for the best, Zane. If she's adamant, you should sign the papers. At least then you'll find someone who truly loves you." His mother interjected, her expression unreadable. "Why did you bring us to this house? Do you expect me to buy this for you as part of our divorce settlement?" Zane's voice carried a tinge of accusation. "Why would I need you to buy this house, Zane? This house is already mine," I replied calmly. The shock and disbelief etched on their faces hit me like a bomb. They regarded me with disbelief, as if I were joking. Zane and his family seemed utterly unconvinced. "How on earth can you afford a house like this? You're renting, and your job isn't enough to cover this. Stop lying to us," Zane's father demanded, his tone sharp with suspicion. "I'm not lying, Zane. Remember when I mentioned that my parents left me some inheritance? Well, this is the house I was talking about. It's under a trust now, but I'll officially inherit it when I turn 30. I don't work a high-paying job because I have a trust fund waiting for me. That's impossible. Your parents passed away a long time ago. They should have let you have the house earlier." "Well, you see, my parents were aware of the potential leeches I might attract. So they instructed me never to disclose the house or trust fund to anyone. Call it foresight. But they knew someone could exploit me. Hence, they placed everything in a trust to keep it safe until I reached 30. By then, I'd hopefully be settled with someone who genuinely cared about me, not my inheritance." "Oh my God, Claire. You should have told us about your wealth. We had no idea. This is a sizable house you have. We could all live very comfortably here." "Yeah, you should have shared that sooner. We thought you were after our house. We could have avoided all the misunderstandings." I'd always knew Claire was perfect for Zane. I've been saying she's a great woman. Look how wealthy she is. Zane really found a great match. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Their attitude toward me had shifted so rapidly that it made my head spin. What was even more bizarre was that they soon seemed to forget about the divorce filing. I took out the divorce papers and signed them. As I was saying, "Here's my signature for an uncontested divorce. You can just sign these to make it easy if you want to fight. We can take this to court. I won't live with you anymore. Claire, listen to me. There's no need to rush this. You've already proven you're not a gold digger. There's no reason to get a divorce anymore. We'll even apologize for any misunderstanding. That should make things better, right?" Yes, Michael is right. We're sorry, Claire. We doubted you for no reason." "I don't want your insincere apologies, Zane. For 2 years, you allowed your family to berate me and label me a gold digger. I expected you to at least defend me. But no, you sided with them and accused me of being a gold digger as well. I won't stay with someone who doesn't respect his wife. I'm done with you. We can part ways amicably or involve the courts. The choice is yours. Zayn, Molly, and Michael tried their best to change my decision, pleading with me to let go of the past. In their minds, what happened was just a simple misunderstanding. Not once did they show remorse for tarnishing my name. Their audacity fueled my anger. When I reached my breaking point, I demanded they leave before I called the police. My anger intimidated them, and they left. Over the next few weeks, Zayn and my in-laws continued to harass me daily. They begged, pleaded, and even offered bribes to convince me to stay. Their belief that I could be swayed with money only intensified my fury. It revealed that they still considered me motivated by financial gain. The irony was that, as Zayn co-owned the house with his parents, I was entitled to half of his share. This realization fueled their desperation for reconciliation. Despite their attempts, I remained steadfast in my decision to part ways. I relocated all my belongings to my parents' house, asserting my right to stay there even before officially taking ownership. Zayn and the in-laws persisted in reaching out, prompting me to change my number entirely. I wanted to avoid their constant attempts to contact me from unfamiliar numbers. Zayn attempted to discuss matters at my workplace, but security was informed and asked him to leave. Zayn still hadn't signed the divorce papers, holding out hope for a change in my decision. Nearly a year has passed since I initiated the divorce proceedings. With only a year or less remaining before the legal process concludes, I've managed quite well on my own. Living independently, I've found happiness and financial stability. While I've gone on dates, I'm not considering anything serious at the moment. According to a cousin of Zayn's, they are apprehensive about paying me my entitled share of the house. Legal fees are piling up, and their savings are insufficient. Zayn is even pushing for a sale, harboring resentment toward his parents for the upheaval in his life. At this point, I simply don't care and only want to be free from that toxic family.